Someone asked me the other day if I'd ever get into a relationship again. Relationships, please. A comedy of errors with a life sentence, right? That's relationships. The one thing we all want, but also complain about endlessly. They're basically emotional escape rooms. You're locked in with another person. You don't really understand how you got there. And you're just hoping to find the clues to make it work before one of you snaps and flips the table. And the biggest problem, you don't actually know how much arguing is too much before you start wondering if you should just pack it all in and live in a cave. People always ask, how do you know if a relationship is working? And the answer is, you don't. No one does. Not even the experts, especially not the experts. They're the people who write the books about how to keep a marriage alive while secretly getting divorced themselves. Now, there is some research on this because, of course, there is always going to be some scientist sat down somewhere and thought, let's measure love, which is weird in itself. Because you think their time would be better spent, I don't know, finding a cure for, I don't know, awkward silences or maybe something more important. But still, anyway, they found out that if you have fewer than 5 positive interactions with every negative one, your relationship is doomed. But here's the kicker. If you have more than 11 positive interactions with every negative one, your relationship is also doomed. So basically, if you're constantly at each other's throats, you're in trouble. But if you're never arguing and just sit there around gazing at each other like a pair of lobotomized lovebirds, you're also in trouble. And we all know why. Because if someone worships you non-stop, eventually you start to resent them. You start secretly hoping they annoy you. You just to spice things up a little bit. You think about it. Ever been in one of those relationships where the other person just adores you? They agree with everything you say, laugh at all of your jokes, never challenge a single thing you say. You think it's great for about a week, and then you start feeling like you're dating a human golden retriever. You wake up one day and think, God, I wish they would just tell me to shut up. See, a relationship needs a bit of conflict, not too much, a little bit. Obviously, if every dinner conversation turns into like a hostage situation, well, that's not right. That's going to be a problem. But no conflict at all. That's not love. That's customer service, 100%. If you want a partner who agrees with everything you say, just talk to Siri or Alexa. At least they've got a mute button where you can unplug them. Now, relationships are like rowing a boat together. Sounds lovely, right? Romantic, a little Venice moment. Yeah, until you realise you're both holding an oar, but going in different directions. And that's what most relationships are. One person's rowing towards commitment and the other is paddling towards, let's see how it goes. And then you both wonder why on earth you keep going around in circles. And that's where marriage comes in. Marriage is essentially society's way of saying, right, you two, you're stuck together now. You'd better sort yourselves out. The great Carl Jung, who was basically a food without a weird mother obsession, said something brilliant. He said it's brilliant. So you don't need to tie two things together if they'd naturally stay together. So why do we need marriage? Because there are forces trying to rip it apart. And if you give people the option to leave every single time things get hard, nothing ever gets fixed. But if you're legally stuck with someone, suddenly working through issues becomes a lot more appealing. It's like saying, right, we're on a lifeboat together. You can either make this work or we can both drown in a sea of passive-aggressive silence. And that's the whole point. Marriage is the emotional superglue. It's not perfect, but it stops people from legging it the second things get difficult. Well, it's supposed to, at least, anyway. Now, here's the real kicker. People think divorce is the solution to a problem, to the relationship problems. It's not. Divorce is basically hitting the reset button while your bank account catches fire. People go into divorce thinking, this will set me free. No, it won't. It will set your lawyer free if you've got one, if you're stupid enough to buy one or get one. Free to buy a yacht. If you think about a breakup is bad, try turning it into a legally sanctioned financial exorcism. Your partner's no longer just your ex. No, they're your new full-time nemesis, starting in the longest, most expensive courtroom drama of your life. And if there's kids involved, well, you're done. You've just entered the Hunger Games of co-parenting. Your weekends are now an endless game of which parent is more fun. You become the glorified Uber driver with the occasional visitation rights. And the worst part, No one ever wins. Not you, not your ex, and certainly not your children, who now have the emotional baggage of an airport terminal. Statistically, divorce rates have skyrocketed, especially for the working class. Back in the 1960s, divorce was a scandal. Now it's more common than people actually staying together. And the only people who still get married and stay married are the rich, because they can afford therapy. Meanwhile, single parents, especially in low-income households and low-income situations, are absolutely drowning, not figuratively, but literally drowning in bills, in childcare, in responsibilities, in existential dread. They have to be both the fun parent and the strict parent at the same time, which is like trying to be Santa and the taxman. And here's what no one's thought about. Fast forward 50 years. Right now, millions of people think being single and independent is great. I don't need anyone. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, great. Until you're 75, sitting there alone in a flat with no kids, no grandkids, and the only voice you hear all day long is Alexa telling you what the weather is. So what's the answer? Pick someone, argue a bit, work through it, stick it out, because relationships are hard. But you know what's harder? Sitting alone at 80, trying to convince a home nurse that you used to be an interesting guy. Go on, sit on your bed tonight and ask yourself, what am I doing wrong that I know that I'm doing wrong, but I refuse to fix? You'll get an answer. You won't like it, but it'll be true. And it'll probably start with, stop being such a selfish knob.